why extreme mold avoidance doesn't make sense and doesn't work for multiple chemical sensitivity in this video explained.
Why don't you do cool spins?
Welcome back. So I'm going to do another video edition on extreme avoidance. And while a lot of people fail with extreme avoidance, I don't like to use this word propaganda, but I like to use chemical sensitivity in the context of analogies and what works and what don't work, or what's worked for me. The other day I was watching a Western, and in the Western, I don't remember the name of it, but the guy gets shot in the movie, and he takes the impact, and he's like, I'm fine, I'm good, the wound heals up, he's good to go. It wasn't the shot that got him, it was the lead poisoning. And you can use this analogy on several things with multiple chemical sensitivity. You can use it for mycotoxins. You can use it for, let's say, heavy metal poisoning, chemical poisoning, EMF. And I like to look at exposures as that as, and I like to look at sensitization in the same light or the same manner as, with MCAS, you take all these little shots, and at the time you may feel, okay, I'm fine, it's not bothering me, or the onset of MCAS, they just turned the lights on. The thing about it is take all these little shots, you're like, I'm fine, I'm fine. And then in the movie, 6 months later, because that bullet's still there, the cowboy or whatever in the Western, he passes away. And if you've ever seen an episode of Forensic Files, and if you've ever watched it, when a spouse is poisoning another spouse, or etc., it doesn't necessarily mean that it hits them right there. The fatal consequence, or the fatal thing that causes the sickness and the death, it may be months later. They do a urine and they do all this other stuff in the hospital, and it's good, and then all of a sudden they do a hair analysis, and they find the arsenic, or they find what the person ingested that led to that person's death, or whatever. But in our case, with chemical sensitivity, it's mycotoxins, heavy metals, etc., etc. So it kind of runs hand in hand. But the point about it is, in the Western, the cowboy gets shot. That wasn't the bad part. The bad part to him was that lead had sit in there, and in some cases it may cause infection. With him, the body started breaking down the lead, and it started causing redistribution. And this can go with hand in hand with a lot of things, like the anti-color protocol. Use it, for example. It's not so much the filling or having the filling put in. It's the body has natural acids. It has natural chemicals that starts to break it down, and that toxicity, if you're not an excreter, that toxicity leaks out into the body, and it has nowhere to go. It may lead to redistribution. It may go to the brain, it may go to the liver. It has nowhere to go. Some people that detox correctly or properly, they never have a minute's trouble with a lot of this. So with MCS, we always see that kind of same pattern. They detox poorly. So I'm going to get to my point of my video is extreme avoidance to me doesn't work, because if let's say for 10 years you took little hits, and let's say the little hits is little shots, and your body's full of who knows what. I'm not saying it's mycotoxins or lead or arsenic or whatever. If you don't do anything about what's there, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think you're going to make any progress? If you're not an excreter, so as soon as you do extreme avoidance, you feel better. You say, okay, I'm in a good environment, I feel better. But isn't the purpose of all this is to have higher tolerance? If you do extreme avoidance, let's say for mold, let's say for 10 years, and your body's not excreting that mold, or mycotoxins or whatever, if that's your cause, it's just sitting there and it's causing problems. It's the same way with that Western. It's the lead's there. It's causing issues. It's redistributing around your body. And that environmental barrel's full, and you're not treating the cause. You're not removing what made you sick, even though it might be 6 months after the exposure, or a year after the exposure, or 3 months after exposure. Let's say it was several little hits. Let's say it was multiple different things. So avoidance is part of it. Number 2 is knowing what's in your body to treat it. And a lot of people, they look at somebody and they say they're doing really good on Pectosol, they're doing really good on EDTA, they're doing really good on ALA, they're doing really good on this or that. But you have to think, you have to use common sense. You have to work with your mast cell doctor, or your holistic doctor, or whatever you want to call the person, because your hair analysis test, your mycotoxin test, and let's say your Lyme's test. A lot of people, they'll read a story and they'll say, this person's doing really miraculous on ivermectin, or they're doing really, really great on anti-abuse, or they're doing really great on this, or they're doing really great on that. But the reason why they're doing really great is because they had a game plan. They done the test. They knew what they was high in, and this goes back to, a lot of people don't know this, but people's like, well, the hair analysis test, it's inconsistent, it's not. But I will tell you with 100%, a lot of the manufacturers around here, a lot of the ones that really, the advanced testing, they use a hair analysis test to check for drug testing, and it goes back 6, 7, 8 months according to the sample. So the hair analysis is valid. They use it for drug test. They also use it for forensic testing, spousal poisoning, etc., etc. They also use it for trying to remember the other use, but they use it for even after a person's passed away, the autopsies, etc., etc. But I'm not going to go in extreme detail. So, like with urine, it'll show up fast, and your body kind of get rid of it. But what the body holds on to, it just kind of stays and shows up deep tissue, etc. But back to the point of the video is the analogy or the lesson that I learned with the Western is it wasn't getting shot that done the damage. It was the aftermath. And that's what I tell people is what's left behind. So if you're doing avoidance, you're not taking any more hits, but you're not removing what's making you sick. And that's the whole point of the video. That's where I'm getting at, is if you have good genetics, you may get by with no binders, or not a whole lot of sauna or anything like that. But with me personally, it took 200 or 300 saunas before I started improving. Before I started seeing any kind of improvement. So I wanted to use that analogy. I wanted to put it out there. I don't want to make it a long video. I don't want to make it confusing. So that's why I had to leave some more mold groups, unfortunately, because it's all about avoidance. But your treatment, having a game plan, it's just as important, because as I said, people, they say, this person's really doing good, I want to do this medication, and it may not mean daily squat for you, because this person, they had Lyme disease, or they're battling Lyme disease, and they know, okay, here's the Lyme treatments. They do better, that's great. The person B, they had heavy metal poisoning, so they're on chelation, so they had improvements. Great. Another person, they had mycotoxin, or they had mold exposure, so they picked binders that focuses on mold and had great improvements. So what really frustrates me is, it's good to learn, but the people that read these success stories, they say, well, this person's really doing great on ivermectin, I'm going to get on ivermectin. But they don't know the root cause. Do your 3-core test. Find out what's in your body. It'll give you a good idea. Then you go from there. You work with your doctor, mast cell doctor, whatever, holistic doctor, Lyme doctor, whatever you think that you need to start out with after conventional medicine's failed you. You do that, you chelate, you bind your RX, supplement according to what you find, then you look for the improvements. And then after the improvements, you'll know whether you're on the right track. If it's no improvements, you step back, regroup, possibly retest, or try another medicine in that category that may agree with your genetics and binding or whatever, that works with your inabilities. And if all else fails, the sauna and the red light, I don't think anybody can go wrong with that unless they got a heat sensitivity. So that's all I got, and I hope that everybody has a good night. I wanted to do a quick video on that.